Good morning, guys. Today we're going to be painting this beautiful misty landscape with this beautiful tree. This is a photo that I picked for one of our art collab family challenges that I had with my collab group, and this photo just reminded me of a scene from Pride and Prejudice, and I could just imagine Mr. Darcy walking across this field in the mist. And so I just fell in love with this photo. So here I am. I'm going to sketch it here on our watercolor paper. I just use a small watercolor block by Bo Hong. This is one of my favorite watercolor papers to use. And I sketched it out, and then I used this kneadable eraser, and I just ran it along those lines to lighten them so they wouldn't show up in the final painting. And the first thing I'm going to do here is get this watercolor paper all the way wet. I'm going to use just clean water. I really love using this mop brush to apply water to the whole paper all the way across from edge to edge, corner to corner. And then with this misty landscape, I'm going to start by doing a wet on wet. I'm using my Naples yellow first. I'm applying that here where I see the sun in this sunset or sunrise, whichever you prefer. I use that Naples yellow first, and then I also like the Naples yellow red. I think it really adds like a nice kind of a pinky yellow color, kind of a peachy maybe. And it just blends from the yellow to the orange or pink color. I think it makes it blend really nice and smooth. And so you can see I'm applying this paint. I'm kind of applying it randomly. There's really no rhyme or reason. Except that I look at the reference photo and I apply that yellow where I see the light peeking through. I like to spare that central area and keep it white. I think that makes a really nice contrast in your sunrise painting. I'm using this Oprah rose, and I'm applying this at the bottom and the top of those yellow areas. I'm letting that wet on wet method, and that yellow is going to blend really nice and smoothly into the yellow on the in that middle area. I also am using this pink color, and I'm applying just some brush strokes here and there. I want to create the natural looking sky. The natural looking sky doesn't, if there's any clouds in it at all, it's not just going to go smoothly from one color to another. It's going to have these kind of streaks through it, so that light reflecting across those wispy clouds. And so I'm applying that pink, and then I also really like this Hobbs orange that I got from Blue Pine Arts, and I'm applying that, just again, that kind of streaky method throughout this wet on wet area to create that really nice sunrise look. Here I'm using Prussian blue. I really like how this blue blends in either with the pink, or even if it touches that yellow or the orange, it's not going to make a green color. It goes really nicely with these colors. And so I'm applying it just lightly using that wet on wet method again. I start at that top right corner. That's where I see the most of the blue in our reference photo. I start that top right corner, and then I let it blend smoothly into the colors below. I also use a little bit of moon glow, from Daniel Smith, and make that a little darker shadow in that top right corner. Here I'm using a lifting technique. I just have a clean, damp brush, and I'm lifting up a little bit of that area. I just want to keep that area really light there. All right, we're going to do our second layer. Here I'm applying, you have to make sure that your first layer completely dries before you move on to the second layer using the wet on wet method. If it does not completely dry, you're going to get weird blooms in areas that you don't want. And so you let it completely dry, and then you saw in the photo that I wet the entire paper again from top to bottom, and now I'm going to go back and add my clouds. Here I'm using Moon Glow by Daniel Smith, and I have a medium mixture between the water and the paint. It's not too thick, but it's not too watery. I'm putting that on my brush. I'm using this tissue to dampen off, or to kind of wipe off any excess water. If you have a lot of excess water in your brush, this color is just going to go everywhere, and your clouds are not going to be able to be well defined. You can see just like huge blooms everywhere. So I'm applying in the middle just some really light clouds, and then here I'm going to go with a thicker mixture of that moon glow. And here I applied it really thickly, but I noticed it was starting to dry. So I'm going to go back before it dries all the way, and I'm going to just add some clean water around those areas. I want my clouds in this painting to be smooth and to blend in really nice and soft with the background. I don't want any hard lines. I'm going to darken up this top right corner with the moon glow, and then I'm going to start adding some more clouds here. that you can see. I'm going to keep adding some lighter clouds here in the middle and some darker clouds here on this right side. What you'll see me using my fingers here. I find that if I use my fingers instead of another damp brush, it can keep the paint from really spreading too far out in these areas. And so I just dab it with the tip of my clean finger, and it softens the paint here, but it also doesn't let the water just take it everywhere when maybe some of the times I add a little bit too much water. And I really like that light cloudy effect that my fingertip creates. And so you'll see me do that quite a bit. Play around with it and see if that's something that you enjoy when you make your clouds. And let me know how it goes. I'm continuing to add some opera rose and moon glow here in different areas to continue to add some clouds. I do continue to look at the reference photo, but at this point, this painting really needs to become my own. And so sometimes if I really try, I get too caught up in trying to make my paintings look exactly like the reference photo, and sometimes I found that really hinders my artistic ability, my artistic style. And so at some point in here, I tend to put the reference photo away, and I kind of have it in my head, but then I also just start adding clouds wherever I think they need to be, wherever it looks good in my painting, because now this has become mine. You're going to see here in this area that I'm trying to add some nice pink and some purpley clouds in this area. And I'm going to keep working on this area, adding some more wispy clouds, and just adding them wherever I feel like they belong on my painting. I'm going to add some more pink and yellow here on this left side. I want a really nice glow that starts in my sunrise. And I'm going to keep working my way all the way across. I'm going to add some of these. You want to add wispy clouds by doing longer side-to-side brush strokes. Whereas when we want the fluffy clouds, you're going to kind of do almost like a scrubbing motion. You're not trying to lift anything, but you're trying to apply that paint kind of in more of a fluffy motion. You'll see here that area where I was trying to add the purpley pink clouds, I was not happy with it. So I just applied a bunch of water and I wiped it off. If you do it before it dries too long, that's something that you can do. You can just change whatever you added. Some of the watercolors are going to be more staining, and it will be harder to lift up all the color, but especially with these yellows and the pinks, if you just don't like it before it dries, go ahead and apply some water and then change it, take it off and change it. So here I'm wanting a few more clouds, and so my painting started to dry, and you'll see that I'm applying some more clean water to the painting so that I can keep working in that wet and wet method. And I'm reworking that area that I didn't like before. Like I said, I had wiped that off. So now I let that layer completely dry, and now I am wetting it all again so that I can continue to work on this misty landscape that we have. Now what I'm wanting to do is apply that tree line that's there in the distance, and you want that to really be in a wet on wet method. I do not want to apply this tree line at the same layer as my clouds, because I find that tree line, the paint that I apply for the tree line and the paint that I'm applying for the clouds, they'll start to compete with each other and push each other around. So I want that pink and yellow sunrise sky to be there and to not be moved around, but also have this tree line there and not be moved around. So I do these on separate layers. So I wet the entire surface of my painting. Here I'm using Moon Glow from Daniel Smith. This is a really nice granulating paint. It's kind of a purpley blue. I think that would be how I would describe it. And did a horizontal line all the way across the horizon, and then with random strokes here, I am applying the paint in what looks like kind of a tree line in the distance. And on my reference photo, I noticed that on that right side, that tree line is a little bit darker. You can see it there, so I'm applying some more paint there so that it can be darker in that area. I like to try to get as close as I can to the reference photo, but like I said before, sometimes it really messes me up because I am sometimes not satisfied with my own painting or my own artistic ability. So I'm starting to let that tree line dry, but I don't want a harsh line there at the bottom of the tree line. I want it to blend really smoothly into that forefront, into that green area in the foreground. Now I'm starting to add the green, that field color. I want to spare some of the area between the tree line and the green. That is a really pretty area. It's not just, you want it to remain misty in that area. You want it to keep that soft, spare that space so that it maintains that misty look. What I'm using is this, I think it's called Sea Green. This is also by Daniel Smith. It's another nice granulating green that I have. I will include a list of all the colors that I use in the description of this tutorial. So I'm applying that green, but then I'm also applying the Moon Glow here at the front. I want these two colors to blend together to make that kind of like that shadowy, misty look here in the foreground. It's going to create some really nice texture here in this field. So I'm going to continue to apply the paint here in my field. And one thing that I learned early on, a really wise watercolor mentor taught me, is to create more interest in your painting. The foreground, those two front corners, two bottom corners, you want to make these areas warmer and have more texture and darker than the rest of your painting, and that will create visual interest. And so I'm trying to achieve that here. I'm continuing to add some of that Moon Glow here at the front, but again, I'm continuing to add it on this wet on wet method so that it's going to continue to blend in with the green that surrounds it. I'm going to continue to use different brush strokes here, and I do not just want a solid color. I want my field to have some texture, because in any field that you look at, especially here under this tree, you're going to see some shadows. You're going to see variation of color, and you want that in your painting, so it'll create visual interest. It'll create just a really neat, more natural look in your painting. I definitely want to keep that shadow from blooming out too much away from the tree. And now we're going to switch to creating, this is going to be more of a wet on dry method. I would just want to create some more texture here on this field. I'm again using the Moon Glow, but I'm doing it, it's a thicker mixture, so a little bit darker, but I'm not doing it's not very watery. It's more of a dry brush technique. So I'm applying that here to create some texture here on the field. Here we go, we get to start on our tree. So I went ahead with this photo because with this painting, I want my colors to be harmonious and to go together. And so I stuck with my Moon Glow from Daniel Smith. I did not switch to a brown. And so I'm applying this Moon Glow here to create the biggest trunk that I see on the reference photo. When you make a trunk, so if you look at a tree, the trunk and the branches, they're not in straight lines. They kind of wobble here and there. So what I do is I continue to lift up my brush every now and then here and there and kind of alter the direction of my brush so to create a more natural looking line as I create this trunk and these branches. For some people, this is really calming and they really like this step. For me, it gets really overwhelming because I tend to look at the reference photo and try to paint every single branch. And so at some point in here, I really just have to put down the reference photo. I have it in my mind. I have it what I want to look at, but I need to look at my tree. I encourage you to look at your tree. Where do those branches need to be? Where do they need to be placed to make it a more natural looking tree? And definitely study your tree. Are there branches more in one place or another? Are they bigger branches, smaller branches? Are you having a lot of leaves and flowers on the branches, or is it just, bare branches there? And then put the reference photo away, and not from memory, but just look at your painting and really try to go and to create the tree that looks good with your painting. Here, what I like to do with these finer branches is I use something called a rigger brush or a fine liner brush. This is one that I got from Princeton Neptune. It keeps its shape really well, and it does not create a really thick line. It keeps a really fine line. So if you push down harder, you can get a thicker line. But if you maintain really light pressure, you can create all these really nice little branches without having your paint too thick. And please feel free, like you see, like I have my painting turned to the side like this. Turn it this way and that so that you can get the best look, so that you can continue to apply your branches. I find it easier to create these branches when I pull towards myself with my hand. So I turn my painting so that I can create these branches on this side by pulling towards myself. It helps me keep those branches and the pressure really light, and I don't end up creating branches that are thicker than I intended. Okay, I'm speeding up my painting, the video here a little bit because I do not want you to replicate each of these branches stroke by stroke. I want you to kind of get the idea of what I'm doing, but then I want you to feel free to go onto your painting and to create these branches with your tools in a way that you feel like is good for your painting. And so I'm speeding it up a little bit here, and I'm just continuing to add branches where I think they need to go. And I'm going to go all the way up and down each of these big trunks, and we're going to keep going. Here you see I'm using this little sponge. This is a tool that I really like. This sponge, when it dries, it creates this really kind of firm sponge that has these really nice holes in it. And so when I use it, when it's still pretty dry, I like to apply paint to it and dab it. It makes a really neat leaf effect without making huge globs of paint on my tree. So you can see that there where I applied the leaves. It's really nice and fine in those areas. So here I'm going to continue with the branches on the right side of my tree. These are a little bit thicker, and again I'm trying to alter my direction every so often to make these branches look more, they're not curvy so much. I try to avoid the curvy, but they kind of go, at angles here and there. So I keep trying to make kind of more natural looking branches. Study a tree when you have time and try to kind of do a practice where you can create branches kind of looking like that, and notice how imperfect and how random sometimes nature makes things. And it just is so beautiful when we don't have to control these things. We don't have to control it to make it look at perfect right angles and perfect straight lines that we get to when we get to paint things that are from nature. It just takes some of the pressure off, and we can make it look really, really beautiful. It's very calming to do these things. I'm going to continue to add these tree branches and add more details to the tree, and I'm going to keep going with this. Okay, we're getting so close to being done. We're continuing to add our branches, and we're just continuing to look at our painting and see where those branches need to go. And we're making our paintings our own. And just, man, this tree is just looking so, so good. I like to keep that central tree trunk pretty dark, so I keep adding paint there and making sure that those branches blend smoothly in with the trunk. All right, so as I finish up this tree, I just want to ask you guys, for those of you who have watched this tutorial and also participated in it, what was the hardest part for you in this? Was it making the clouds? Was it making the foreground with interesting texture? Was it the tree and adding these branches here? So I'd love to hear from you guys, and make sure when you're done with your painting, sign it with pride. You have made something beautiful, you've made something amazing, and it deserves to have your name on it. And I hope you hang it up, or I hope you share it with others. And I hope you'll share your creations. I would love to see them on Facebook or on Instagram. Please find me, Watercolors of Glory, and tag me, and I would love to share your work in my stories.